Hi everyone, welcome to the show. Wanted to talk really quickly about the cost of actually doing your own books. Now, I live in the do-it-yourself capital of the world, Utah County, Utah. Everybody here seems to want to do their own books, and I wanted to talk a little bit, and a lot of times they are capable of it, but maybe it's not the smartest thing to do. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Now, in the legal and medical professions, they say that if you're a doctor and you decide to self-diagnose, then you have an idiot for a patient. Ha ha ha. Kind of the same thing if you're an attorney. If you're an attorney and you want to do your own case, well, then your client is a fool. You need someone kind of to step back, and that's really what they're trying to say with these sayings. That you need to step back from the thing that if you're a doctor, you're close to the situation if you're trying to diagnose yourself. If you are an attorney and you're trying to take care of your own case and you are too close to the case to be able to be objective about it. And the same thing really applies to bookkeeping and accounting. If you try to do it yourself, you're actually so close to the situation that you can't see the mistakes that are being made. These mistakes usually kind of fall into a very few categories. I don't need that on. That's weird. Downloaded. These mistakes tend to fall into just a couple of categories. One is they're miscategorizing things. This happens a lot. I see this very frequently in advertising versus printing. If you are having business cards printed, if you're having flyers printed, that actually goes under printing, even though you are printing them for advertising purposes. Still goes under printing. There's reasons for that that I'm not going to go into right this minute. And then the other big thing that I see a problem with is that a lot of business owners will try to write everything off as meals and entertainment. I mean, like, they will write off lunch, they'll write off breakfast, they'll write off dinner with their family, they'll write off a trip to Disneyland, they'll write off everything, saying that, well, my business is me and I am my business, and so I can write off everything that I do. And it would really be wonderful. I wish I could. I really wish I could. I'm in the same boat. My business is me. I am my business. I haven't hired any other bookkeepers as of today. So it's all me, and it's in my home, and so I could very easily justify saying, oh, everything that I ever do is business related because I think about my business all the time. Unfortunately, the IRS does not see it that way, and if you look at it objectively, if you look at this from an outsider's point of view, as much as we would love to write off every single thing that we do and everything that we spend a penny on, it's not the case that this is always business all the time. For one thing, it's a human need to recreate, to recreate ourselves, and to relax and rejuvenate. And I'm going to go do that in just a few minutes because I'm going to go hike up Grove Creek Canyon. I need to be out in the fresh air and sunshine. I've been indoors all day long, and I need to get away, and then when I'm done with that, I'm going to go lift weights. So, it's a human need. Now, I could possibly argue that because I am my business and my business is me, that my gym membership needs to be written off as a business expense, and that's not the case. It'd only be the case if I was paying for it for one of my employees. And that would be then an employee benefit. I could write theirs and mine off then and say that everyone that works for me gets a gym membership. But that's not the case. The only person in this business right now is me, so I don't get to say that everything that I do is business related, because everything that I do is not business related. Now, I could also kind of step back and say that my youngest he's a Boy Scout, and my second youngest, she dances, she competes in weight training, she used to be a Girl Scout until she decided not to do that anymore. She felt it was a little bit too young for her. there's a lot of things that I can write off as charitable contributions that some people actually try to write off as meals and entertainment or as business expenses. They can still be written off. If I help my son's scout troop with an activity, I can still write off what I spent on that, or I can write off the miles that last summer I drove down to Green River to pick up the scouts from their river rafting trip. You know, they kind of started at point A and went down the river, and they needed to be picked up at point B. So I was one of the drivers to drop them off in someone else's vehicle, and then I went and picked them up in mine. And on the pickup, I could write off every single mile. I could write off all 300 miles or so, because that's a charity. I wasn't doing it for myself. I wasn't doing it for any reason other than to go pick up the scouts and bring them back. And I did write those off. And if you've ever been in a small vehicle, I drive a Chevy Cruze. It's a small car. If you've ever driven 150 miles with 3 scouts that haven't had a shower for a week, I would say I earned that deduction. Other than, you know, writing off the miles, the wear and tear of my car. I keep teasing these kids. The worst ones was when my daughter did ballet, and she was in a dance company that did a lot of competing. So at the time I had a minivan, and I would help drive these girls to their competitions, and I would just give them such a hard time coming back. Like, oh my gosh, I would rather have the football team in there than these teenage girls. They're sweet as can be, but oh my gosh. So anyway, back to the point. You need to have an objective set of eyes on your books, because if you don't, if you start trying to write off everything that you do because you think that that's, you know, this is my business and so I can write off everything because this is all it, you know, I do business 24 hours a day, the IRS is not going to agree with you. And if you do get audited, it's not going to go well for you. So I would suggest that it actually will cost you more in the long term to do your own books for several reasons. I'm going to say, well, 2. Well, there's more than 2. One is you're losing time that you could be using, you could be spending earning money. I keep trying to tell my clients, you don't need to micromanage me. I really do know what I'm doing. I've done this for a very long time. I'm very, very, very good at it. If I have questions, I will contact you, but you don't need to be leaning over me, because that's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my expertise, and it's a waste of your time. All this time that I'm doing on your books is time that you can be investing in your business and helping it to grow. If you do that, then you'll be able to actually grow your business. Another reason is that having a professional do it, someone with a lot of experience that has a lot of knowledge about it. And I've talked a little bit before about how to tell if your bookkeeper knows what she's doing. First thing I want to ask about is debits and credits. If they don't know the difference between a debit and a credit, and how to do a general journal entry, then what you've got is someone that's worked in one little piece that they, you know, maybe they've worked accounts receivable, and that's the only thing that they know, but they think they know everything. And to be fair, I went through that myself, but I'm also a very studious person. This is May 3rd. I have read 41 books this year so far, and some of them were not easy to get through. And I read about everything. And so if I'm learning, if my job entails something, put it that way, when I started doing bookkeeping, the very first thing I did was start doing video courses and certifications and everything that I could find on bookkeeping, because I wanted to be the best accountant, with or without a degree. I wanted to be the best. And I've talked before about the different kinds of competition there are. I don't want to put anyone else down. I just want to be better. So, you know, my clients, and I keep encouraging them to, you know, don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm doing my job. I've done this a long time. I have helped businesses grow because I just took the books off of their plate, and that enabled the owner to be able to spend that time working on their business, or perhaps even more importantly, spend time with their families. I can't do those things for them. Another reason that you need to outsource your bookkeeping as opposed to doing it yourself is that trained eyes can start to talk to you about different things that you may need to add to your bookkeeping package. The number one thing that I see is slow payment. If you're getting paid slowly, and by slowly I mean you should get payment depending on your business model. If it's more than 30 days, you may have a problem. If you are an auto repair shop, of course you expect to get paid at the time of service. If you're a physician's office, you're going to get the insurance payment and then bill for the copay and the deductible. If you're an attorney, you usually get payment before you even start the job, but then it goes into a trust account, which is a whole different thing. And when you have a bookkeeper helping you, if she's good at her job, she's going to start talking to you a little bit about, I noticed that it's taking a long time for you to get paid. When did you invoice this person that just paid you? Or she's going to listen to what you have to say. Things like, my cash flow is not very good. That's an alert to me to sit down with my client and say, well, how many days does it take you to get paid? And if they say, well, 15, 20, 30 days, then I'm going to start in with, why don't you let me do your invoicing? Why don't you let me handle your accounts receivable? Let's find out where you really are as far as your receivables are concerned. A lot of business owners, actually, you would think that if you are owed money, you would know it, but there are business owners that have a lot of dance studios, for example, have a lot of customers that only pay, $50 to $100 a month, and it can be kind of hard to keep track of all of that. So there's times when what you really need is you need someone to help you with your receivables. If you're getting a lot of late notices and your bookkeeper is not in charge of doing your bills, and you can really personalize your bookkeeping experience to help you the most. But if you start seeing that you're getting a lot of late notices, then maybe you need to let your bookkeeper do your payables and let her print your checks. Make sure that they go out to you. What I do sometimes is I will print the checks here at my office, and then I will take them unsigned. I don't ever want to be a signer on someone else's account, but I will, print them up and get them ready, and then talk to my clients about, this needs to go out. This is late. This needs to go out. Let's get all the discounts we can and avoid all the late fees we can. And if you're getting a whole lot of overdraft charges, then you need to have a talk with your bookkeeper. Most bookkeepers, the way I do books, there's usually about a 1 week delay between, well, it depends on the client. It used to be a 1 week delay between the time that I knew, I look at everybody's books once a week. So it could be a few days before I realize that, oh, you're overdrawn. But I'm not spending the money. I'm not on that every day unless you're in a bigger package. So, excuse me. So if you're starting to get a lot of overdrafts, you need to talk to your bookkeeper. There's a couple of things that you would need to know. One is the bookkeeper not recording all of the transactions properly? That has occasionally been the case. More typically, my clients have taken the profit and loss, or what they see as the bank balance on the balance sheet, and said, oh, that's how much money I have in the bank right now. And then they go and spend it. And that may or may not be true. I try to make sure that everything is clean and everything, but there may be checks that you have written that I don't know about yet that haven't cleared the bank. And I kind of chuckle because everybody seems to have forgotten how to balance their own checkbooks like we did when I was in college, when we wrote paper checks for everything before debit cards were everywhere. It used to be that I would have to keep a check register and write everything down that I wrote and make sure that that balance stayed positive, because with my luck, I would try to float a check. Do you remember doing that? Sending out a check and hoping it didn't clear, before you got your paycheck to the bank? I would try to float a check. This is way, way, way back when. And I knew if I tried to float a check, it would clear the next day, like clockwork. Before it would clear just before my deposit got there. But the funny thing is, people figure that whatever they see in the bank when they log into the bank, they figure that that's really what's available to spend. And that's not always the case. People, personally, we prefer to use cards for everything, but I still use electronic checks. I collect by electronic check. I pay most of my utilities by electronic check, and those take a couple more days to process than a debit card transaction would. So, you kind of have to be aware of what you're spending versus what the bank says that you have. If you get your bookkeeper involved in your payables, however, and make sure that she's aware that, yes, I wrote this check, it has not yet cleared the bank, but it needs to be put into the software, then she can kind of help keep track of that for you. And that does entail working more closely with your bookkeeper. Another thing that a bookkeeper can help you with is to determine whether or not you need to have payroll done in your business. Some of the secrets are, if you are incorporated, you need to have payroll. If you are an LLC or sole proprietor, you can probably get by with just taking draws. But if you are incorporated, you need to take a paycheck, which means you need a payroll processing something. Either an outside company that does it, or you need a way of doing it within your software. Your bookkeeper is the best person to help you take care of that. And she can be, you can talk to her about all of your concerns, and she can be the one that's, alert to, oh yes, I noticed this. This means that you need to make some changes. Or, if she talks like me, it's we need to make some changes in the way you run your business, so that you can be better prepared for tax time, so that you can grow your business intelligently rather than just haphazardly. And there's a lot of things that bookkeepers can do that we're usually very underutilized. I have, most of my clients are I work on their books once a week. It takes me a very short period of time to do them. Most weeks it takes them short. Once a month it takes me a long time, but most weeks it doesn't take me all that long. And I try to be on the alert for things like, oh, he's making payments to a credit card that I don't have statements for. That could completely change the way his business looks if I don't know what's really going out. So when you try to do your books yourself, you may or may not be aware of all of the options that are truly available to you. That's why you want to have an outside bookkeeper. For one thing, they don't have energy on your money. I talk about this all the time. It's not my money, and I'm probably smarter with my clients' money than I am with my own, because there's energy on my money. I have energy on my money. I'm very particular about how that's spent. But when it's with a client, you know how when you're talking to a friend about their relationships, and your relationship is in shambles, but you're giving great advice because it's kind of like that with money for me. I mean, I'm really good with other people's money because it's other people's money. It's not mine. But I will overspend sometimes with my own because it's my money. I don't have to account to anybody else. And having a bookkeeper kind of gives that layer of accountability that you don't have if it's just you. And if you're trying to let your spouse do it, you really, really, really don't have it. What you have is a recipe for disaster. I am not a fan of, I have seen too many couples come in and they are on the verge of divorce because he's running the business and she's doing the books. And it's just not worth it. So I'm not a fan of a wife doing the husband's books, or vice versa. I really think that, if you're in business, you should have an outside bookkeeper. And if you're in business, you should be able to afford one pretty easily. My prices start at $24.95 a week, depending on what your bookkeeping needs are. So don't hesitate to call me or to reach out to me through, direct messages or just don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I really do. I want your business. The number one reason, though, that you need to not do your own books, the real cost of not doing your own books is a lost opportunity. If you're spending your weekends and your evenings and your early mornings doing book work that I can do in a fraction of the time because I've done it so much, then you are losing opportunities to be with your family, opportunities to be with your friends, opportunities to grow your business. And there's no way to put a price tag on that. So, I recommend that everybody gets an outside bookkeeper, that they hire someone right from the start when they start their business, so that they can take advantage of their opportunities and make sure that they grow. And one of the nice things about the low price point that I start with is that I can grow with your business, and then that hopefully there will come a time when you need to have an actual in-house accountant, and it won't make sense to use someone that's outsourced anymore. Then it will make sense to have an office and have an accountant in the office. And when that happens, then I'm very happy to turn the reins over. That's my favorite way of losing clients. If I must lose a client, I want it to be because they outgrew my needs or my services, and they needed an accounting department that's in-house to write the checks and be there and is there 40 hours a week for them. That's how I want to lose clients. I don't like losing clients because the company went out of business. I don't like losing clients because they thought that a CPA could do a better job. Let me tell you, that's not true. CPAs overcomplicate things. I love CPAs. I want to become a CPA, but their tendency is to make things more complicated than they need to be at the small business level. Now, at the major corporate level, then they need more detail, and it's useful, but sometimes it's not at the micro business and small business. So when I talk about a micro business, I mean it's solopreneur, a single person running their own business, and they are their business, the business is them. And then a small business is anything from 1 to 10 employees, regardless of revenue. I love my job. I love helping people see where their money is going and help them make better decisions. And the way that I help them make better decisions is to provide them with the information they need. I was talking to a client today who said, he's having some cash flow problems, and I'm very aware of that. And he said he hates having those conversations with me, not because he thinks that I'm great, which is awesome, but he doesn't like to see the negatives, the negative balance. He's a little bit in the red, and we're kind of trying to see, how we can improve his cash flow and how we can get more customers in. And he said, but it's important that he has those hard conversations with me so that we can see where he's at. We can see. I've talked to him extensively about ideas to bring more business into his company, because I'm invested. I'm very invested with my clients, and I want to see them do really well. That's really it for today. I've got to go change clothes. The mountains are waiting for me. And you guys have a wonderful evening. I will look forward to talking to you tomorrow.